it is a pleasure to be back at ChemUK for our third year with Asynt, and today again we're going to be doing a medley of different demonstrations. We're going to be making a custard, we're going to be doing some chocolate work, we are going to be looking at colour changing anthocyanins in butterfly pea flowers, we're going to be doing some glucose, acting as a reducing sugar to reduce down this copper 2 solution, and we're going to have a little look at some starch hydrolysis as well. So we're going to start off with making our custard, because we've got to cook our egg. So I've got a solution I've got some cream in here. The cream is at a nice temperature of about 88 to 82 degrees, and that's the perfect temperature that we require to make our custard. So what we're going to do is I'm going to mix up with a spoon my egg yolk, and I'm going to add that to my mixture along with some sugar and some vanilla. So we're going to add a couple of teaspoons of sugar into there like that. That can go out the way. And we're going to add a little bit of vanilla. So we've got a nice vanilla custard. And then we're going to pour in our egg yolk. Hopefully. Like so. There we go. Perfect. So there we have now, we've got our cream, we've got our sugar, we've got our vanilla, we've got our egg yolk, and that is going to perfectly cook our custard, because we need to get to the right coagulation temperature to cook that egg. So when we've got egg yolk or egg white on its own, they're around about 60-70 degrees. When you've got your cream and other bits in there as well, then it's going to they're going to insulate it a little bit so the temperature gets bumped up. So it's around about 80 degrees. So if we leave that for a few minutes whilst we do some other demos, then we'll end up with a lovely custard at the end. Right, next one I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, let's do the starch one that we've got. So I've got a solution here on this side. If we just turn this round a little bit. We've got a solution here where we've got some water and we've got some barley flakes in there. Got some nice barley flakes. So this is going to mimic what we would do in the process of making beer. So we first of all do the mashing process, whereby you'd heat your barley flakes with some water, and that's going to gelatinize the starch at a nice high temperature, so release all those starches, gelatinize it, thicken it up, and then we need to then break it down from its starches into the fermentable sugars, which in the case of making beer is maltose. So I've got here a solution of our water with our barley flakes, and we're going to add in a few drops of our brewer's amylase, like so. That's all we need. And then that is now going to do its magic, and it's going to now hydrolyze the starches that have been released from our barley flakes. Going to hydrolyze it, and it's going to break it down into its fermentable component sugars. So we're going to have some maltose. And there's a really good demo to do alongside this, which is just to showcase how we're going from starch down to the reducible sugars. And this is one of the things I often do when I'm going around to schools. So just so we can showcase how enzymes are working and so that we can actually monitor when the starch has all been hydrolyzed and broken down. So what I've got here is I've got a little plate, and it's got a little bit of our iodine potassium iodide solution that creates a polyiodide linear complex which can insert into the starch of our that's being released. So you've got your amylose in there. Your amylose is a helical structure, and your iodide can slot into that helical coil, and it's a charge transfer complex. And as a result of that, it ends up being these electrons can be excited, and they end up taking on a colour, and they look really dark blue or black. So what we can do here, I've got two solutions that I've already prepped beforehand, and for this, what we can do is we can add. So this one here is a solution of just water with the barley in there, and so we should see a really dark black solution where we've got presence of starch. So mix it into there, and you can see, I'll do it on those two there, you can see we've got some starch present, so it's really dark black and blue. And again, the reason why this works so well, because I've done this with the Asynt hot plates. I've warmed up these beforehand. The amylases come into action, and the starch gelatinization happens around about 70 degrees. That's also when your brewer's amylase comes into action as well, so you can get a nice controlled temperature. And then now for this one here, we've got a solution where I've added the amylase in, so we should have broken down the starches now into its component reducible sugars, and as a result we don't have that coil structure of our amylose, so we should now be able to see that you won't have any starch present. So when we mix it into here now, you can see that we're not seeing any starch. That's a really good proof of concept that we've now shown that the starch has been all broken down. So that's that first demo that we've got. Now, next, what should we move on to next? Next, we're going to do a little bit of butterfly pea. So I've got here some solutions that are nice and warmed up. These have got butterfly pea in here. These have got anthocyanin pigments in there. And these anthocyanins give them their wonderful blue colour. And these anthocyanins, what can happen is when they're put into an acidic environment, so with a little bit of lemon juice, you can protonate the structure. You protonate the structure, it changes its molecular structure, and as a result of that, it absorbs light in a different region of the spectrum, and it will go from this deep blue through to a sort of magenta-y pink. So we just add a few drops now of this lemon juice into here. It's been nicely warmed, and you can see we've changed the colour. So you just do that for each of these. If you just do it a bit at a time, you can see you can get some different strength colours. So that's what you'd see some. Making cocktails, a bit of mixology, you will see this happening whereby you'll have these wonderful colour changing drinks. It's an okay tasting drink, it's nice with a bit of lemon for a bit of tartness, but that's again some chemistry in action showcasing these anthocyanin pigments acting as natural pH indicators. Again, nicely warmed up using the dry sim block for the vials. Right, so that's that one. Another thing that I do in these vials, I've just taken these off, but I've got these two here. This can here now is another solution, again, food connected. We have got our Benedict solution. Benedict solution has got copper sulfate in. That's what we've got here, copper sulfate. It's got copper 2 ions, they're bright blue. And then when you add a little bit of glucose is again another reducing sugar. As a reducing sugar, it can reduce down when heated down into a copper 1 oxide. So you'll see here that this one here that has been with a bit of glucose in, so I put a little bit of liquid glucose in, and you'll see that we've reduced it down now from that wonderful blue colour down to this red copper oxide. Again, all used in those vials in the Asynt dry sim block. So we've got some redox chemistry, we've got some colour changing anthocyanins, we've covered some enzymes with some hydrolysis of starch, and we've also been making a custard which is now nicely coming along. It's all being mixed along in the process, so it's going to have no splitting in there, there'll have no lumps, there'll be a wonderful smooth custard which we can pour over this lovely sticky dates sponge at the end of it. So before we do that though, we're going to do a little bit of chocolate work. So what I've got here is I've got a hard cast mould, and for these I love to use, I have one of these stirrer plates with the dry sim blocks at home, and I have this small block here that has these vials, and I put my cocoa butter into these. They melt really nicely, and then I can use these now to cast into my moulds, and then I'll put my tempered chocolate in, and I can then create some wonderful chocolate work. So you can see here, these ones, they've come out, they've been using this cocoa butter spread into the mould, and then I can create these wonderful things that we can fuse together, and we're going to make a bauble. That's the blue ones. These ones, if they'll come out, yep, there we are. There's some wonderful purple ones there with some little gold shimmery specks. And again, they're beautiful, lovely hemispheres, really shiny because the chocolate's been perfectly tempered. And again, I use that on here. And what we can do is we can stick these together. So if I now move these out the way, move that there, I'm going to move this hot plate off, and we shall just turn off this here. It'll still be nice and warm. What we're going to do is we are going to now melt our hemispheres and stick them together. And I do these to make these wonderful little baubles like this. So I've got a nice ribbon that I've put in there, fused them together, and we can get a nice little like ornament in beautiful blue colours for Asynt. So that's what we've got, and we'll stick those there. Let's have a go at making one. So I've got a little bit of ribbon, so I can now go along here like this, cut a little bit of ribbon off, like so, tie that into a loop, make a nice little knot from this, like so. Go around again. That's created a nice knot, and now we can stick these together. So if I get one of these, I'll just warm it on the plate like so. It's perfect size for this. Make sure it's nice and melted. Take that off. I'll sit that in there, and then I can sit my bauble on top. Let me just get that in. There we go. Just hide that in there so they can't see it. There we go. Put it together, and when we can get it wonderfully fused together, which once set, we'll have a lovely little hanging bauble. There we go. Perfect. I've also done this quite a few times, so that's on a small scale. I've also done this quite recently. I've been painting the cocoa butter into these molds, so again I can get a bit of my green, like so, if I was to use a paintbrush. I did this to make this wonderful chocolate earth, as you can see just here. So here's my chocolate earth. So I can do, again, I'll just get my warmed cocoa butter, which is sat in those vials. I use the cocoa butter. I can paint into my mold. So I can paint, in this case here, it was creating the different continents on the earth, like so. We can do exactly the same as well, but using blue to make the sea, and then we put in tempered chocolate. And then once you've done that, you can demold and fuse those together, and that's where we have got this wonderful chocolate earth like that. And I made this just the other week. We did a big celebratory cake at the University of Leicester for David Attenborough's 100th birthday. The globe that sat on top, I made it at home, and I did it with my Asynt hot plate, with my cocoa butter being kept nice and warm in these vials. We've got a wonderful chocolate earth at the end. So leave that there. So that's all of that. Just for those that are just appearing, some of the demos we've gone through, we've done some colour changing anthocyanin. This is a butterfly pea, which is a blue flower. It can make a nice hot tea, and it will change colour when you add a bit of acid. So for example, if I was to get a little bit of lemon juice, we just add that into there. We can change the colour and it'll go bright pink. We've also done a little bit of showcasing some starch breakdown using some amylase. So they had starch solution present there, that's with the amylase. And we're going to finish off now with our custard, which hopefully is nicely ready. So I can move that into there and get it out. If we undo this now, here we go. So we should have a wonderful custard that's nicely thickened. There's no lumps in there at all. And hands-free, I just put all the ingredients in, left them, just come back to them, and we have our wonderful sticky ginger sponge here that we can now just pour our wonderful custard over the top, like so. There we go. We'll sit that back in there. Now, unfortunately, I can't get this out for people to try, but I can assure you that it's such a great way of doing it. So I also heat up the cream and infuse it with different, like citrus or spices. Makes great to then mix that into chocolate to make different flavoured ganaches. So I can do 3 different ganaches at once. I put some citrus in, some vanilla, maybe some star anise. Pour those into chocolate, make different flavoured ganaches. There's my fresh custard. And yeah, we've done this as well. If that's still warm, it is. I can shake it. I'll do one more of these to finish. Let's get another little bit of ribbon. Here we go. So cut that down to size. Make a little ribbon here. Tie a little knot. Like so. And we'll melt one more of these. So again, we can melt our chocolate on here, like so. There we go. And then we've got this just sat there like that. We can sit our little hooked ribbon in there, and then we can sit our other chocolate on the top, like so. And that will fuse together really nicely. And then there we have our little, I'll do that again. Warm that up. Once more, put our little ribbon in there. Stick that together. We'll let that set. There it is. Here's one that we did before. Hopefully that one will hang. There we go. That's the one that will hang perfectly. Got a nice little ornament at the back. So that's my little medley done of 5 different demos, all using the Asynt kit. We've used the hot plates, the dry syn blocks. So I'll sometimes have the reflux condensers as well, the condensins in there as well. We've made a custard. We've done some colour changing. We've done some redox chemistry. We've done some enzyme hydrolysis. We've done some cocoa butter chocolate. We've done a little bit of everything. So thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.